Hey, everybody. Welcome to One Rental at a Time. You know who I am. I'm the Lumberjack Landlord, and we've got the amazing Michael Zuber as well as Dion talk financial freedom. And we're going to hash out today the 50-year mortgage debate. Before we even get started, I know that they're both wrong, but we will jump in anyway and prove to you and see which ones you guys agree with. So, Mr. Zuber, since it is your channel, I will allow you to state your case first.
So I think there's a lot that I will ultimately agree with my good friend Dion. But yes, there were shots fired earlier in the week where he took me to task and basically said I was wrong. So let me get into this. First and foremost, investors, all of us, pretty much most of our communities will benefit from a 50-year mortgage. It will, quite frankly, allow us to have higher cash flow. It will allow our yields or cash on cash or return on capital to be better. And frankly, if we already own stuff, which all three of us do, we will see our net worths rise almost immediately between 8 and 12%. Just because. I mean, just an extra $1 million, gentlemen. Congratulations. So investors win. Next, banks, escrow, mortgage brokers, anybody involved in the mortgage game wins. Right? Anybody involved in transaction wins. Now, who loses? Why am I anti 50-year mortgage? To me, the 50-year mortgage is frankly just like rent control. And I mean that. Now, what do I mean by the 50-year mortgage is rent control? What I mean by that is rent control, as I've talked about on this channel and all three of us has, feels good in the moment. It feels good for the lucky few who get it at the beginning. But when you fast forward just a couple of years, it is no longer a good thing. It reduces supply. It makes everything else more affordable or unaffordable, excuse me. And that's exactly what the 50-year mortgage will do. The 50-year mortgage will come in. There'll be a 6 to 18-month period where the first-time home buyers will feel like they're winning. And then they won't. Then it will be all gone. Then the gravy will be out, juice will be squeezed, and the only people that win are guys like us who own more than one unit. Lastly, the thing that I think most people get wrong around the 50-year mortgage, and Dion knows this was an assumption he got wrong as well, was people are assuming, in all the calculations I've seen, that the 50-year mortgage rate will be the same as a 30-year mortgage rate. And that's just not how lending works. No. The longer the term, the higher the rate. Right? The delta between a 15 and a 30 year is not zero. The delta between a 30 and a 50 will not be zero. So again, a lot of these, it'll save me $250 is just bad math, right? It might save you $150, $100. Shoot, in a bad rate environment, it'll be less than $100. So, if you want to assume it's going to save you $200 a month, but you've got to pay an extra $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 more in interest for those extra 20 years. That's just financial suicide. And then the last thing I'll close with is we just found out this week, or maybe last week, that the median age of a first-time home buyer is 40. 40 plus 50 is 90. Right? You're going to be dead. So again, if you want to leave something to your kids, why not mortgage debt? Just give them mortgage debt. They'll love that. But at the end of the day, we all know that most people don't own their homes. They do a mortgage every 8 years or whatever. But it's just not. We don't need 15-year car loans, and we don't need 50-year mortgages. We don't need more debt. At that point, just rent. I mean, it's just, why bother? So I'll stop there. I got more, but let's bring in the wise and ever so good-looking Dion.
Only when I have my AI filters on, though.
The filters. I saw the filters. My first
That's just a grok image. I drop an image of me in there, and I go, make this holding a whiteboard. That's what it thought I looked like.
There you go. Yeah, well, I mean, I guess AI can't replace anything as far as we thought we could. I mean, here's the difference. It was a much better version of you. As beautiful as you are, it was an even better version. But go ahead.
Any version of me that isn't me. So it's, I love you like a brother, right, Zuber? It's not that you're wrong. You're just mistaken. So, all right. The assumption that I heard in the video the other day was to go off of your mom, who's
Yep.
older
Yep.
and has a paid off house, and that
Yep.
is how she can retire.
Correct.
That completely refutes the facts from the study done by Freddie Mac from 1970 to 2024. So a 54-year study done by Freddie Mac. 90% of equity comes from appreciation. 10% comes from pay down. So 10% of the loan that's paid off, that your mom has a paid off house on, came from paying the loan off.
Of course.
I used a chart in my video, which you saw the other day, where I showed if you bought a house in 1975, so you're 1975, you had 50 years now to pay it off. You have a paid off house with a 50-year loan. You'd be this old to do it. But if you bought it in 1975 for $30,000 with 18% interest and never refinanced, your payment today, at your last payment that you would be making, is $412 at 18% interest.
Yep.
Would they have kept it? Would they have refinanced to 3% at some point? Would they have just paid it off at some point? We have to think in 50 years, $20-$25 is going to be like $400. That $2,000-$3,000 mortgage payment is going to be almost nothing because the dollar's being, according to Jason Hartman, and I agree, inflation-based debt destruction is massive.
Yep.
So that's the first thing is the payment wouldn't make somebody continue to need to work. I agree. I don't think people keep mortgages past, 10, 15 years. They usually refinance, pull money out, or get a better rate, or sell a house and move somewhere else like that. So I buy a house at 10 years old, like Casey said, and then I'm 60, I can finally have it paid off. Something's going to happen in between there. But then let's say your mom owed $200,000 and she has a mortgage payment. And I'm going to take it away from your mom because I haven't met her yet. And I really look forward to it. When I see her in February, she's going to be at the One Rental at a Time event. Super excited about that. But let's just say the average American that owns a house that isn't a renter, that has a net worth in the hundreds of thousands because they own a house for years. They don't have it paid off. They have equity. 90% of equity came from appreciation, not pay down. We have a home equity conversion loan, which at 62 becomes available. It doesn't saddle your kids with debt, because in order for your kids to inherit debt, the property would have to be worth less than it was when you bought it 50 or 40 or 30 years ago. The property trends would have to continue down past your death. They'll get debt, but the property can be sold and pay off the debt. The tax is paid on, and then there's the reset, capital gains reset, and depreciation, recapture, reset. So that doesn't happen. But a lot of older people don't need a paid off house to do a HCL. They just need equity to do a home equity. It's not a paid off house, new mortgage, so we can pay you every month. It's a home equity, whatever the equity is. It freezes the loan payments, and here's your monthly stipend that you're going to get that does accrue interest and add debt to your property, so your kids will inherit less. But I've got a friend going through that right now. His mom had to sell everything and basically just has money in the bank in assisted care. Every month she's spending, now it's about $9,000 a month until it's gone. Once it's gone, she goes on Medicaid. Medicaid covers it, and then she has to have a shared room, and it gets worse. But so he doesn't expect an inheritance. He's like, I hope my mom lives until there's no money left. Like, I don't want her to die just so I get some money.
Right.
But even without home ownership, to be in assisted care as we get older, it's until you're broke, then Medicaid kicks in. But that home equity conversion loan as an option on the equity that comes from a 50-year loan right now lowers the barrier to entry to buying a house by $30,000 a year in income. You need to make $30,000 a year less in order to qualify. And you know how dumb lending is. You said it in your daily update today. They removed the low credit score for because the FHA loan doesn't exist to help people buy houses. It came out in 1934 to help get construction workers back to work. The idea with an FHA loan and easing FHA access is to shorten a recession. So that's why they're removing credit scores. They're going to make it easier to buy. I'm a fan of people buying a house, whether they're an investor or a homeowner. And the data proves it with the average, the median net worth being $221,000. This was last year's data. It's probably more now, but $221,000 if you're a homeowner, $6,800 if you're a renter. So I'm not in you should just rent if you're, because I think homeowners can do interest-free or interest-only loans for 1,000 years. The brewery in Ireland or somebody is paying $54 a year for their interest only 1,000-year loan, right? So spelled out over enough time, it's in the owner's favor. The caveat is, I don't think people care how much money the bank makes. I think they care when they do the math. For about 10 minutes, they're in a seething rage. But then they're like, what would I be paying in rent? That's 100% interest. That is money that goes to not me, to not pay down principal, to not get me appreciation. So there's people that rent that are just fine. The people that own, who cares the interest they're getting? Who cares about the principal pay down? I don't even really calculate principal pay down. And I gained $600,000 in 2022 in appreciation. I'm like, that's a recognizable percentage of net worth. So,
yeah.
And then the last thing I'll wrap up with, and I'll toss it back to you.
Yep.
It is absolutely individual, case by case. Don't make any assumptions, because when we make an assumption, we make an ass out of you and umption. We don't know what the interest rate for a 50-year will be. If it's so high, your rate doesn't come down. Of course, if a 30 and a 15 was so high, the 30 didn't make sense, people would have 15-year mortgages, but they don't.
Right.
Back to you.
Yeah. So a couple of things. So first off, your $30,000 in buying power, you're absolutely right. But just like rent control, that'll be gone in a minute. That $30,000 in buying power will be gone in, my guess is 18 months. So that, again, that does feel good for a moment, but it'll disappear. 50-year will just become the standard. All housing prices will adjust up, not down, to make up for that payment difference. So you're right in the moment. You're right for, I don't know, maybe 1 million people get to take advantage of that $30,000 in buying power, but it'll be gone in a minute. Next, I love using my mom as an example. Well, obviously I love her to death. You guys would get to meet her, but I also know what happened in our household. Right? They did buy a house in Sunnyvale, California for less than 50 grand or whatever it was. And she ultimately sold it for $1 million, right? That's quite the run in, 40 years or whatever it was. But that's not the story. The story was we had recessions, and my family on more than one occasion had to go out and do cash out refis to survive. So this whole idea about buying in 1975 and paying $400 in 2025, your last payment, is cute, but that's not how it works, right? Homes will appreciate, then they'll go back and get another 50-year, and then another 50-year, and another 50-year. So, while that's absolutely true that $400 will feel like nothing if you didn't do anything, it's just not reality, right? Math says that the average homeowner refis their house every 8 to 11 years, either refis or sells. And that's my biggest fear. To your point, I don't really care what people do. I believe in people choosing, but I also know what happens in real life. Real life smacks people around, and the average consumer is dumb. The average consumer is stupid. So they're going to do, 3, 4, 50-year refis. They're going to take some money out, less than they would if it was a 30-year, and then they're going to get to be 55, and they're going to freak out because, oh my God, I've got no money saved. I now have a $5,000 mortgage payment because I went to Disneyland 17 times in the last 3 decades. And I'm screwed because I got nothing. And, just look at the average 65-year-old today. They have 140 grand, 147, something like that. And most of that's their home equity.
Correct.
And that's going to be gone. So again, the 50-year mortgage per Jason Hartman, inflation-induced wealth destruction, is absolutely correct. If we assume that all Americans behaved rationally, a 50-year mortgage is sign me up. Do interest only. Because again, if you invest the difference, you're going to win. But just like I told Jason, I'm like, Jason, come on. There'll be like 1% of us that invest the difference. Everybody else is going to go ham on streaming services and eating out and this other. Have we not learned that the American consumer is stupid when it comes to money?
Nope.
So as far as I'm concerned, the 50-year mortgage and now a 15-year car loan is just debt servitude. We're just a slave to debt. And I don't think that's wise for our economy, in my opinion.
Okay, so one other thing before Matt gets to unload on both of us and tell us how we are.
Yeah, you big dummies.
I saved this towards the end of the video because I want to reward the people who watch our videos this long. This is not for the average home person who was like, oh, these are investors. I'm out of here. When they saw the title and thumbnail and clicked on it. Like you, I don't care what people do. The average person is stupid, right? And when we say the average person at that age has 150,000 in their home equity or whatever, that's the average, not the mode. The mode is zero. 48% of Americans between 55 and 65 have zero saved for retirement. So the mode is the thing that messes with me. But for the not average person who watches content like this, here's why. While this is not a hill I'm worth dying on for me, I'm not going to argue this on other podcasts. I'm not going to go out and debate this because I just had an opinion I want to share with the people who watch our channels.
Yeah.
Because of this one aspect, this is why this matters to me so much. We have a window of opportunity that you've talked about twice so far in this video. About 18 months when interest rates do their thing, but people start having access to 50-year mortgages before prices jump up, before sellers realize, wow, the buying power really adjusts how much I can sell my house for. Comps are going up. Appraisals are starting to match my offers. So the person paying attention, for the last 3 years, I've harped on remote work has expanded out how far people can live from the major work hubs, and rent prices haven't. We're probably coming to the tail end of that because now the people who are working remotely forever feel comfortable to start buying in those markets. So prices will start to appreciate, not just rents. So we had a window of opportunity that's closing, but now we have a window of opportunity. It's always what's coming next. This is why I watch the Michael Zuber One Rental at a Time daily financial news. I emptied my retirement accounts and purchased a property in 2020 because I was going to sit back like everyone else in fear and going, wow, the world shut down. But there was this voice on YouTube University going, is anybody paying attention to what's happening to interest rates? I hadn't noticed. They dropped like 50% in 2 years. And I was like, I should buy a house. And I did. So right now, I'm that voice saying, you have a window of opportunity, the viewer today. If the 50-year loan comes out, you have 18, maybe less, maybe a year, months.
Maybe a year.
To go and buy before prices catch up. That's who I'm screaming for.
I agree with you 100%. If the 50, again, I don't care if it comes or not, but if it does come, you will have just a tiny window, a crack to just get an unfair advantage and go make 10%. It's just math. But all right, Matt, tell us how we're both wrong.
I mean, the cool thing is like, this is a perfect example of what you do in life is that you hire good people under you. So you don't have to do any of the work. You guys completely self-regulated. That was awesome. And not that you guys work for me, but in the case in this video, I was a moderator, so you kind of did. But here's the big three things that you guys missed, which is the core tenets of real estate investing. We do it for cash flow.
Yep.
We do it for tax purposes, and we do it for appreciation. That's the order that I like to look at them. Okay. So you said at the very tail end of your video, because you're nice, you said, so it's just like renting. It's still nothing like renting because you still own. You still get all the tax benefits. You still get, and here's the thing. I had this conversation with one of these previously mentioned idiots that you guys were referring to. P.S. Real proud moment for me there. It only took 4 years, but you guys are finally calling guys idiots in videos. I love it because they're idiots. They're imbeciles. And I had to have the displeasure of talking to this absurd person. And they were just like, yeah, like, okay, convince me. I go, yeah, sad thing. I'm not in the convincing business. I don't give a rip what you do. And I said, but let me give you perspective. In 5 years, is your rent going to be higher or lower? Well, it's going to be higher. Right. Is your mortgage going to be higher or lower? Oh, it's fixed for 50 years. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So there's the piece of it where on the investing side, yes, absolutely. There's the return on the capital that you're going to get. But the big thing is taxes, what it helps you qualify for from a tax perspective versus not. Number two, it's fixed cost. Now your mortgage, yes, it's going to go up a little bit every year because of taxes, insurances, and things like that. But still, it's largely fixed cost. And your rent within 5 years is going to blow the doors off of that mortgage payment. And within 10 years, you're going to be like, holy shit, this is awful. My life sucks. And I'll again get to interject because you're an idiot. And that's the first piece. The second piece to this, which is I absolutely love the idea of the 50. I love more products to choose from. That's my preference. I want more optionality. That way, when I'm looking at any given deal, I can run it through the spectrum and go, hey, you know what? A 30-year mortgage kind of gives it, it is kind of borderline for me on whether or not you can make an appreciation play. A 15-year is not, because we saw some areas not take 15 years to recover from the great financial crisis. So it doesn't make me feel warm and fuzzy, especially when it resets every 5 years. Definitely doesn't make me warm and fuzzy. But now we're talking a 50-year mortgage. Everybody who's anybody can bank on appreciation with a 50-year mortgage, right? Just look at where things were 50 years ago. Like Dion brought up brilliantly. Hey, in 1975, it was a $30,000 house and it was an 18%, cost. But holy cow. So I think that, again, I think the same tenets remain true, which is, why do we invest in real estate? It's because it is for cash flow, it is for tax advantages, and it's for appreciation. I think those three tenets remain the same. And I think that anybody, and I think that Dion is 100% correct. I think, Mike, you seem to always be right on timing. I'm still in the early camp on this one. I think that because the system works the way that it does, I think it's going to be a 6 to 12 month window, because that's how long it took during COVID. That's why as soon as they started shutting stuff down, I was like, I'm doing every deal that comes across my plate right now, because I can get super cheap debt, 30-year fixed, and everything that I did every deal I possibly could. And that made me really, really wealthy, really wealthy, because I bought so many deals in that time. Now, I spent 3 years writing the ship. I spent 3 years getting them cleaned up, cleaned out, renovated, But now we're like down to less than 20% of the portfolio hasn't been fully optimized. So it's got that great return. But that's where I think you guys, I think you guys, like we all do, I think we deviate into the news of the minute, as opposed to how it then correlates to our core tenets: cash flow, taxes, appreciation. And for that reason, I think that all of the other stuff out there is just pure noise. If you're an investor, cash flow, taxes, and appreciation, that's what it comes down to. Tell me where I'm wrong, since I'm the mod.
Again, I don't think there's any question that investors will win with this. To your point, more options, better yield, better cash flow. There's absolutely no argument. Also, you're absolutely right. It could be sudden. It could be it could be 6 to 12 months.
I think it's going to be quick.
I'll still stick with 18, but the under is a great guess as well. And again, at the end of the day, we all go back to our internal bias. In my internal bias growing up financially insecure, having that house is really the only asset that the family leaned on a couple of different times. I just know that the average American is not an investor, doesn't think like us, doesn't even understand what Jason means by inflation-induced debt destruction.
Correct.
They don't probably even comprehend Dion's perfect example of a 1975 house at 18% being $400. They don't compute that. Right. They don't, it's like breaks their brain. And then again, we're just consumers. And if we allow, 50-year mortgages, they'll just do cash out refis, and people will just continue to do what they do. And that just means that when they're 55 or 60, they're going to have an epiphany and realize they're broke and have no options. And then they become forced sellers. They're just become forced sellers. And it's not what I want for 65-year-olds. It looks like Dion's got a chart, I think. Go ahead.
Real quick before you hit the chart, Dion, I think the biggest issue will be, in order for you to do cash out refi, you have to have what?
Equity.
They're not going to have equity.
That's
what exactly.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, they're not going to have equity.
Well,
look at the chart.
I was going to say, all of those times that your family had to tap equity, it didn't come from the part that they had paid down in principal.
No, I agree with you. I agree. But see, this chart is awesome. Your example in your video is awesome. And you're absolutely right. It never was the mortgage pay down. But if I guarantee you, my mom and dad would have done a 50-year mortgage if it was available to them, because it would have saved them a couple $100. They would have done that. But when ultimately my mother had to sell the house, she wouldn't have had that extra equity, whatever that pay down was or whatnot. Correct. So again, it's and again, let's be clear. Let's not lose the fact that I was in California, specifically the Silicon Valley. So the appreciation over the course of 4 decades was higher than most.
It was, yeah. Sure.
We can't forget that. But if you're in 48 of the 50 states,
correct,
you're going to walk away with like 12 pennies.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, because you got to pay closing costs and real estate commissions.
I still think that I still kind of don't agree, because 10% of the equity comes from paying it down. You only lose 10%. You'd still have 9. And then with the added 50-year mortgage, home prices will appreciate, meaning the 90% will be 90% of a bigger number.
Well, see, we're getting distorted again. You talked about median and mode and all of that, right? You can pull up states that over the last decade have had appreciation of less than 10%. Right? We're distorted by California that's up 50% or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the coasts.
It's the coast, right? Or the smile, right? All the coast.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think we are a little distorted on that. So again, when we think about most of the country hasn't seen, right? This chart is very coast driven. It's skewed. If we take out 12 states, this chart looks very different.
I think the one thing that a lot of people are missing is that pay down piece in a 50-year mortgage, and you see how it's amortized. I want to say in 20 years, you pay down about 10% of the mortgage in 20 years. In the first 20 years.
Yeah.
In the first 7, I think it is, of a real mortgage, you pay down 10%. And so that's where the idea is that you can pay down plus the appreciation, right? Because it's pay down plus appreciation that then creates that much more equity. It's going to be very interesting to see. I think it's very much market dependent. We've seen houses in Gary, go from, $30,000, $35,000 for something that was actually livable to now it's $110,000, $120,000 to something that's livable. So that's
But what was Gary, that's a good question. I mean, think about Gary, Indiana. What was Gary, Indiana, I don't know, 30 years ago when we were still making cars in, Michigan or wherever.
Yeah, steel and everything. It was in the 70s was when they had their mass migration. So I don't know. I didn't look at those numbers, but I looked at just numbers from even just 5 years ago. Like there was stuff on MLS that was available, livable for $35,000, $40,000. And now there's nothing livable for less than 100 for the most part.
Thank you, investors.
It's also something that we're not going to see again on that large of a scale, because if car manufacturers move away, or if steel moves away, or if the one driving economic force of a large enough hub moves away, remote work has changed almost everything.
Totally agree.
That's fair.
Right. So
totally agree.
Detroit with the cars moving away, the Silicon Valley with the .com crash, like there are localized markets that will be that were devastated by one industry changing.
Yes.
Local markets can still have that. It's not going to be as big as it was before. I wonder what everybody watching is going to do.
Yeah.
30, 50, all cash, interest only?
Let us know.
Yeah.
Matt, you want to bring us home? You're the moderator.
Well, I appreciate everyone's fantastic debate. I think at the end of the day, we brought it back to the core tenets, which is cash flow, taxes, and appreciation. But it will be interesting to see what everybody else does. You can find Michael Zuber always here every single day with his daily financial news. You'll see Dion on Tuesday nights, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't depend on the ringing bell. Make sure that you put a calendar invite in your own calendar. Otherwise, YouTube, you need to work on that. And myself, Lumberjack Landlord, 9 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. We'll be doing our next couple weeks from the road. We'll share that in probably the next video. But guys, thanks so much for watching. And guys, phenomenal debate. Leave in the comments exactly what your plan is, but also the reason for your plan. Because, a lot of times people will show up in our lives and they say, hey, so I'm going to buy a house for $250,000. And so there's not enough data there. So put it in there, put it in the comments why you're doing it and that what you are going to do. And we will certainly respond. Guys, thanks so much for a fantastic video. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Later.